in the year for the New York Rangers, and I don't know how many people really had this result on the bingo card halfway through the season.
Yeah.
So, Dan, what's it been like to go to the rink this year? Like you said right before we went on air, a little bit of a soap opera. How does this compare to other seasons that you've worked at the Garden?
Oh, this one's different just because the expectations are so high coming into the season, and they start off 12-4-1. If you're watching closely, you see the warts, right? You see they're not as good as 12-4-1, but hey, they're 12-4-1. Your record are was, you are what your record says you are, right? And then you see the bottom starting to drop out, and then it just plummeted, and it was just weird, right? I mean, it was just,
Mhm.
and then you had all this stuff coming out, like the names that came out that, Kreider and Trouba on the trade block, and then the Trouba deal goes down, and Shesterkin signs his big deal. Before that, Lafreniere signs his big deal, and he's not been the same player since that contract at all, right? Things have settled, though. There was, definitely unrest. There was unrest coming into the season because they didn't, these guys, they're proud guys, they're professionals. They don't like to see one of their own treated in a way that they wouldn't want to be treated, and that really was what happened to Barclay Goodrow. They didn't like that, and he was such a big part of that team. So there was a little bit of animosity there. It didn't really band them together. I don't think it fractured them, but it's not something that they rallied around as a group of players. So that was where the weird start from the offseason, in addition to all the Trouba stuff that came out, which basically, and Jacob admitted this, it put him in a position where he couldn't quite be a leader anymore because everybody knew his days were numbered in New York. The Rangers didn't want him anymore. They were trying to get rid of him. They were trying to essentially strong arm to get rid of him. And it's hard to be a leader in that. And I think it impacted his play. And I think it impacted the play of J.T Miller. And I think it impacted the team, negatively. And then on top of that, Chris Kreider's dealing with back issue, right? Mika Zibanejad's not producing. Their goaltending carried them to a 12-4-1 start. Then the bottom dropped out. The soap opera became real. But since they came back from the Christmas break, that things have settled. And if you ask any of the guys there, they'll tell you that coming back and playing Tampa and Florida, and the way they played in those games set themselves up to have the run that they're on right now. They didn't win those games against Tampa and Florida coming out of the holiday break, but they played much better in those games. They thought they were more confident in their game, and then they've carried it in to January and now into a 9-game point streak where things have just quieted down around them. The additions that they made I didn't even mention the Capo Caco scenario in Nashville. That was also quite interesting. I don't mind Caco speaking his mind, but I think he lost a lot of people when he said, I'm not the worst guy, which means he thinks other guys have been worse than him, and he's voicing it, and he's kind of throwing guys under the bus. So he gets traded. Will Borgen has been a nice addition. Erho Vakanainen has played well. I think they've helped settle down the defense. Mika Zibanejad's found a shutdown role, essentially, and he's played well in that role. And things have just quieted down. And Igor Shesterkin, since he's been back from his injury, has been outstanding. So that's how you get to 6-0-3 and get back in the playoff race.